All right, guys, so today we're going to be hitting delts and arms. This is actually the last day of this current training block that I'm in. With the current training block, we're focusing mostly on mechanical damage. So basically trying to create as much damage, obviously inflammation in the tissue as possible. Now to do that, what we're doing is to basically spend more time in that kind of stretch position, lengthened position of the range of motion and load it there. Okay, so like initially the first exercise is going to be a dumbbell shoulder press. So to emphasize more damage here, we're going to do 1 1/4 reps. So coming down, only come up a quarter of the way, back down, then all the way up. So you're doing almost like that small little rep at the bottom. You're spending more time in that lengthened position, creating more mechanical damage. All right. So intensifiers like this, or doing pauses in the bottom for like 2 or 3 seconds, they have their place. You just don't do them all the time. Like this block of training for me is like 4 weeks, and then I'm going into my tension-based work afterwards. Okay, so just understand like these things that I'm showing you, you don't just do them like for months on end. Okay, they're going to create a ton of inflammation, and you're going to have a harder time recovering. All right. All right, so I'm going to do my top set here. Now, people, obviously we always talk about progressive overload, but there's multiple ways to do that, and you never just focus on the number in your hands, right? Like if I was just doing straight sets, like no quarter reps or anything, I could typically do 110s overhead. Obviously, because I'm adding that quarter rep in the bottom, that makes it more difficult because I'm spending more time in that lengthened position where it's overloaded, and it's the hardest position there is in that movement. So I'm not going to be able to use 110s, obviously. But last week I used 85s. I got 8 reps. My rep range I'm working in is 6 to 8. So now that I got the top end of the rep range, I'm going to go up. So it's progression, but it's obviously not progression if you looked at the numbers that I was using, or the loads I was using when I was doing just straight repetitions, if that makes sense, guys. So you always got to put context to what you're doing, right? So I'm going to try for 95 pounds because I do not have 90s in my gym. That's literally the only dumbbell I don't have. So I got to go above 85. I got to go to 95. And I'm doing 6 to 8 reps. If I just get 4 or 5, I've still accomplished what I'm doing, and that means pushing it to complete mechanical failure. But hopefully I'll get at least 5, but we'll see. That was a bitch. Fuck me. What was that, 6 reps, I think? Oh, it was 7. Fuck. See, when you're putting out all this effort, I literally thought I only got 5 reps, but that's okay. I'll take 7. But again, too, it's like my execution didn't falter, but I still pushed. And I pushed until literally I couldn't hardly do another rep. And that's what it takes, guys. I mean, if you want to create the adaptations, get out of your damn comfort zone and push yourself during your damn sessions. Execute, put in that high level of effort. Fuck. All right, so we're going to move on to the next exercises. So this one we're going to do a superset pairing to where it's almost like a pre-exhaust, to where we're emphasizing that stretch position. So we're going to start with the low cable lateral. So when the cables are in a low position, it's an even resistance from top to bottom. Then I'm going to superset that with the pulley set at wrist height, which means the cable is going to be pulling directly across from my hands. So it's going to be completely loaded in this bottom, like overloaded in this bottom position, which obviously would be more the stretch position. And then it deloads as I come back up. But again, it's an even resistance profile, supersetted with the pulleys higher to load that lengthened position. So you're kind of think you're pre-fatiguing a lot of the fibers, and now we're just biasing those lengthened fibers, but you're already tacked, so they're gonna have to work that much harder to get the movement up. All right, so the next movement, guys, now we're moving on to arms. So we're gonna start with triceps first. So kind of the same thought process with the pairing here for triceps as we did for the medial delts. So we're gonna use a movement initially in the beginning to, actually this one will bias it a little bit more towards the short contracted position. So we're gonna do that with a cross cable press down, but I wanted to overload this contracted position first. So basically what we're gonna do is, in this contracted position is where we want the cable farther away from the joint, okay? Because obviously if it's closer like to the arm, that means it's actually deloading there. Further away that cable is from the hand, the more it's loaded. So in this bottom position, you can see like we're close to a right angle in this contracted position here, right? As opposed to, let's say I was leaning over, basically this was the vertical, how close that is to my arm. Because I'm standing up, that makes this really heavy in this contracted position, okay? So you can, it almost looks like a cable, like a kickback, because I'm gonna be standing here, doing this movement here, and that's gonna be overloaded. Then from there, I'm gonna do a cross cable overhead extension to where the cables are behind me. And then again, I'm going to be loaded in this stretch position. So again, overloading that lengthened position in a pre-fatigue state, making it work harder. All right, so the last two movements for the day is for biceps. And we're gonna do a pairing again for the kind of short lengthened overload. So we're gonna start initially with my setup for what, basically like a preacher curl, but just to have the arm in a shoulder extended position. So obviously this is gonna help fully shorten the bicep. Load it there. So basically I'll be sitting on my bench here, facing in, and then I'll get off. I'll grab the cables facing out, and I'll be in shoulder extension. Let me put that backwards. Preacher curl, I'll be in shoulder flexion, and then the face away curl, I'll be in shoulder extension, where my arm's behind my torso. Again, that'll fully lengthen that bicep. But also because the cable's pulling away from my hand around 15 degrees, it's gonna load that bottom position, as opposed to like if you were doing a incline dumbbell curl, like you're in that lengthened position, but there's no load at the bottom because you're just working against gravity. As opposed to the cable, obviously it's pulling away from you, so it's actually loaded and overloaded in this position. All right, so we're just gonna back and forth between these two, and that'll be it for the day. All right guys, so that's it for the delt arm day. After this, next week I'll be deloading for the entire week because I've literally been pushing really hard for the last 10, 11, 15 weeks, give or take. So next week we'll be deloading using some metabolic, just pure metabolic stress work. Obviously some maximal loading, give the joints a break, my system a break from all the like pure tension-based stuff. Hypertrophy work. Reset, jump right back into growth after that.